So we're going to get started, inshallah. Bismillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So this is Nur Sunnah, the light of prophetic guidance, and today's webinar is going to be on your body is talking. Are you listening? My name is Iman Attar. Hippocrates says that everyone has a physician inside of him or her. We just have to help it in its work. The natural healing force within each of us is the greatest force in getting well. Our food should be our medicine should be our food, but to eat when you're sick is to feed your sickness. Now, this is really important because he's talking about how we have the ability to heal ourselves. And one of the greatest mistakes we do is we sort of outsource our healing to somebody else. And what I'm trying to do here with this webinar, inshallah, is to really get you to connect to your body, to understand your body, and to listen to your body a little bit more. So what I want to cover today, inshallah, is the 3 secrets that I'd like to share with you. So one of them would be how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given our bodies the ability to communicate with us when something is wrong, even the subtle nuances that go on in our body. I really want you to try to pay attention to these things. The second thing that I'd like to show you are all the do-it-yourself checks that you can do at home to sort of examine what's going on within your health and your body and what your body is trying to tell you. And last but not least, inshallah, we're going to be discussing how even health specialists today are still using some of these checks, and they're using the herbal remedies. Now, I want you to close your eyes for a minute and think about what brought you here today. What's going on in your life, in your health, that has made you want to get to know your body a little bit better? What are the things, and maybe write these things down for yourself so that inshallah we can answer it towards the end, or at least for you to sort of connect the dots as we go through this presentation to see if any of these things are connecting to you. It's a good advice to turn off all your distractions right now. I know I'm going to stop looking at my phone so that there's no distractions for me either. Inshallah, everything's working. We could just proceed. Now, I always do this in any of my presentations. If you've ever watched this before, I always like to talk about the pie of knowledge. And so that first piece of pie is what you know. And this is what you know that you know. So I know how to speak English. I know about herbal medicine. I know how to walk. This all falls in that little first piece of pie, number 1. The second piece of pie is what you know that you don't know. So for instance, I know that I can't fly an airplane, but I know there's knowledge of how to fly an airplane. I know I don't speak Turkish, but I know that there is a language of Turkish that people do speak it. Now the third is actually what we don't know that we don't know. So there's a lot of knowledge and information that we're not even aware that it exists. Therefore, we don't know that we don't know it. And where I'm going to be focusing on today is really that third piece of pie, that biggest piece of pie. There's honestly so much knowledge out there that we don't even know exists. And it's important that in this, you keep an open mind that you're going to be exposed to things that you've probably never heard of before. It's not part of modern medicine. It may not be something that you've grew up with. So I really do want you to come into this with an open mind, inshallah. Now, there is a disclaimer. My knowledge is always going to be limited. No matter how much I learn and how much I study, there's always so much more information to learn and absorb and teach. Even the collective knowledge of all of the herbalists and doctors and scientists is going to be limited. SubhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created so much vast knowledge that even from the beginning of time until now, all of the doctors and scientists put together through all of these thousands of years still don't have complete understanding of the human body. Now, healing only comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't come from me. It doesn't come from a pill or a herb. I can't guarantee healing for myself, let alone anybody else. These methods, like the healing methods that I'm going to be talking about, they're the means that we're supposed to take, but healing ultimately comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not possible to learn everything about healing from a 1-hour class or book or course. Really, this is just to give you a taste of the kind of knowledge that is out there, that's available, that perhaps you haven't had access to before. My name is Iman Attar. I know it's spelled like Ayman Attar, but the Arabic for Iman means faith. And ironically, my last name Attar means herbalist and perfumist, the ones that use herbs and essential oils and perfumes. So I just found it funny that the two things in my life, the focusing on faith and focusing on herbs, have really come together just naturally with the way my name is. I am a researcher and an author in prophetic medicine, Islamic medicine, and herbalism. I began studying Islam back in 2008 with Al Maghrib Institute in Al Kawthar. I took courses in Aqidah, Tafsir, Sirah, Fiqh of Salah, Fiqh of Marriage, Tazkiyah, and the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, among other courses. I just wanted to name a few. Now, my life kind of turned upside down back in June of 2014. I had just given birth to my third child, and I started to become anaphylactic to peppers. So when I had that reaction the first night and my throat closed up, and I ended up in emerge, it really was confusing as to what's going on with my body. Why is this happening? And so I started to research why do people have adult onset allergic reactions, because normally children are born, have that when they're young. And that interest in learning why my body was doing this had me buried in hadiths, in prophetic medicine, in medical journals. And then in 2019, I decided that I really wanted to just study herbs more, because they had made such a huge impact on my life that I really wanted to become a herbalist at that point. And so it really was my drive to find a cure for myself for those allergic reactions that pushed me to study, and it opened up a gateway of knowledge that's helped me, it's helped my family and friends, and inshallah it's been helping a lot of members of the Ummah right now. These are just some of the names of the teachers that I studied under, the lectures that I've listened, the books that I've read, and I list them so that you have an understanding that some of it is Islamic knowledge and some of it is from traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, some of it is modern medicine or functional medicine, and some of it is Unani tips. So it really is a mixture of places that I've studied from and books that I've read and lectures that I've listened to that has helped shape the knowledge that I have, alhamdulillah. Now, I want you to sort of ask yourself, what if there was truly a way to heal? And we know that it was narrated that by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah has not sent down any disease, but he has also sent down a cure for it. And, when we talk about this, it's important to sort of understand the history of medicine and where does prophetic medicine come in and what is Islamic medicine, because this, timeline makes a huge difference in our understanding. Modern medicine that's currently being practiced is only 150 years old. And we know that we've been on Earth for thousands of years. Ayurveda and Chinese medicine both claim that they've been around for 3,000 to 5,000 years. Greek medicine is 2,500 years old. We know that prophetic medicine happened with the Prophet Muhammad, which was about 1,400 years ago. And then Islamic medicine came after prophetic medicine. And I do separate them because there is a distinction. Prophetic medicine is divine revelation. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us through Quran or through directly teaching the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about specifics. So when we know that black seed is a cure for everything except death, that is revelation. This isn't, test and measure through scientific discovery. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us is a cure. So there's no debating it. There's no need to have scientific proof. I mean, scientific proof is always great, but as a believer, our belief is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us something, we know it's the truth. The other thing with that is that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to confirm the medicine of his time. And at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the medicine that was being practiced was Greek medicine. There was some Ayurveda and Chinese and Persian medicine, where the doctors at the time were studying in different cities and coming. So what's important with this is that things like hijama is not exclusive to prophetic medicine. Prophetic medicine confirmed that this was the truth in medicine, but hijama had been used by Chinese medicine for thousands of years before that, and Greek medicine used it as well. Things like honey was known to be a medicine. Things like cauterization was used as a medicine, but the Prophet Muhammad forbade it. So prophetic medicine came to set the standard. It didn't come to teach all of medicine, but it came to set the standard of what you're allowed to use and you're not allowed to use. And he taught us everything. He taught us about hygiene and health and nutrition and medicine. And what he says is not out of his own whims and desires. This is unquestionable truth. Now, what happened is right after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, there was many scientists and botanists and doctors and researchers that started to, and herbalists that started to take the base foundation of prophetic medicine, and then they started to research Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Persian medicine, and translate their work into Arabic, and then use the foundation of prophetic medicine in order to create a new medicine called Islamic medicine, or, you know, in other parts of the world, they call it Unani Tib. And they call it Unani Tib because it was mainly taken from Greek medicine, but Islamic medicine does also have from Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and Persian medicine mixed into it. And what this did is it took the foundation of all the medicines of its time, it Islamified them, and then it continued to build and research upon that. And during the Islamic medicine phase, the scientists, the Muslim scientists, became the forerunners of medical research and advancements. And because they had the foundation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were able to make several advancements in microbiology, in ophthalmology. Like, there was just so many medical advancements. You know, you would need an entire course on just the history of science and medicine, of what happened during this golden era. And unfortunately, for us, it was the golden era, but Europe was drowning in the dark ages. So we really took forward medicine and we pushed it into where it is today. So much of the medicine that we're using today in modern medicine actually was built off of the shoulders of these Muslim scientists. For instance, everyone knows Ibn Sina. Well, the works of Ibn Sina, the canon of medicine, was taught in European medical schools for over 600 years. So the doctors and everybody that, you know, eventually changed the medicine, they were taught in that. They had learned all of this from Islamic medicine. Now, I'm going to go back to modern medicine because this happened 150 years ago. What happened 150 years ago was Louis Pasteur introduced the germ theory. And in the germ theory, he changed the concept of disease. He changed the way we see the human body. He changed the way we saw diseases. He said that disease is something that comes from outside. So germ X attacks the body and you get, you know, disease Y. This is how it works. Whereas Islamic medicine and Greek medicine and Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine and all of the previous medicines before that believe that we have an internal balance. There's a homeostasis inside of us. There's this internal balance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And when anything is out of balance, your body is going to tell you, it's going to speak to you, it's going to communicate, and it's going to show up as symptoms. Now, when you change that and you say that, no, it's not an internal thing, it's not the internal terrain that's imbalanced, but it's something external that comes and attacks you, then the whole mindset of how our body works changes. Now people have to take pills in order to kill the bacteria, like antibiotics or antivirals or antifungus. They no longer are working from the natural world. So modern medicine ended up taking out herbalism. They took out God out of medicine. They took out hasad and envy. All of these things were removed from medicine, and medicine was then broken down into being just you compartmentalized. So it was your, you know, if it was your heart, you went to the heart doctor, and if it was your stomach, you went to the stomach doctor. So it didn't see the person as a whole anymore. And that's important because it changed the way we see medicine, and it changes the way that we're taught about medicine and we're taught about our bodies. Now, I'm not a doctor, and I do have the utmost respect for the individuals who've dedicated their lives for years of study and hard work in order to serve humanity. I've uncovered a truth that needs to be heard and it needs to be shared. Traditional medicine, nutrition, prophetic medicine, herbalism, Islamic medicines, these are necessary components of healing and rediscovering wellness, and it needs to be revived because Islamic medicine was always part of taking all the other medicines. So we can take elements from modern medicine and Islamify them, and it would still be permissible to use. But we have to go off the basis of how the body works according to Islamic medicine. We can't use the modern medicine concepts of the body and how it works. Now, somewhere along the path to good health, the truths changed and our foods changed and our medicines changed and our relationship to our history changed. And now we find ourselves disconnected from each other, disconnected from the earth, disconnected from nature, We're even disconnected from our foods. Most of us don't even know how our foods grow and how they come to our table. And unfortunately, we've even become disconnected to our own bodies. But I do want to let you in on a secret before I tell you the 3 secrets. There is hope in healing. And what I've listed here are actually things that I've recovered from and healed from. But I know a lot of people have lost hope in healing. So they might say, oh, I have PCOS, you know, there's no hope. Or I have diabetes, there's no hope. Or I have thyroid issues, so there's no hope. I'm on medication for life. So when you lose hope, you stop searching for the truth, you stop searching for a cure, for a remedy, you really stop. You just take the protocol that they give you at the doctor's office, and you go with that. You know, for me, because of my situation, I didn't want to accept that I had to just walk around with an EpiPen for the rest of my life. I really pushed myself to say, no, there has to be a cure. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there's a cure, there has to be a cure. And I started by just taking black seed, and black seed changed my life. It changed my life in terms of everything I knew changed. I mean, they call it the seed of barakah, but it's just unreal how much it really can do. And it changed everything. It changed my knowledge. It changed the direction of my life. It changed my healing. And all of the symptoms that I've listed, all of these diseases and symptoms and issues that I was struggling with before my food allergies, all resolved when I started to take black seed and I started to do some dietary adjustments. So I had a gallbladder stone. I was scheduled for surgery to remove my gallbladder. And alhamdulillah, because I was taking black seed on a daily basis and I was juicing and doing some other stuff with foods, I was able to dissolve the gallstone and keep my gallbladder. And now that I know how my gallbladder works, I'm able to listen to it. And when it's becoming sluggish and things aren't working well for it, I know how to adjust my diet to make sure that it functions well again. I used to have benign breast tumors, and they all went away with the use of black seed. My asthma has reduced significantly. I mean, I would still say I have asthma, but I don't suffer from asthma the way I used to. Endometriosis, I no longer have the pain. Ovarian cysts, dyspepsia, PMS symptoms. I used to have a chronic cough for 2 years, and I didn't know that it was because I was suffering from dampness. Because of my body type and because of the foods I was eating, my body had just become too damp and it couldn't handle the amount of moisture internally. So by learning how to balance that, I was able to get rid of so many issues. So, and histamine intolerance, that's a big one. I don't know if any of you have that. It's not pretty. And understanding histamine intolerance has taught me so much, because it taught me all the nuances in foods. Now I know which foods are high in histamine and what time of day, if I eat foods that are high in histamine, how it's going to make me feel and how it's going to make me sick. But this is important because I want you to walk away at least believing that there's hope. It's not to say that it might be quick and simple. It's not to say that you're going to figure it out tomorrow. It has taken me years, and inshallah, I'm going to help teach you so that you don't have to spend years. But I do want you to walk away at least feeling hopeful that whatever condition or illness or symptoms you're suffering from, there's hope for healing. So the first secret, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given our body a special way to communicate. It tells us when something is wrong, but it also tells us when something is right. We are designed with an immaculate homeostasis, and when anything is off balance, you're going to be alerted. Language, communication, and understanding are vital components of having a healthy relationship with not only people, but our own bodies as well. And just like marital relationships, when there's a communication breakdown, it's going to cause issues in the relationship and it's going to lead to divorce. And the same applies with our relationship with our body. If your body is talking to you and you're ignoring it, you're not listening, you don't care, and you fail to comply with its requests, it's going to start screaming at you. Now, these are the telltale signs of a healthy body. So clear, glowing, warm skin, acne-free is healthy skin. This is your body. You don't want your skin to be dry. You don't want your skin to be too oily. You want the perfectly balanced skin. And that has so many indications as to what's going on inside your body. You need to be energetic, well rested with minimal sleep. We're not designed to sleep a lot. That's just not the way we are designed. And I explain that in the course in a lot of detail as to how much sleep we actually need. But we are designed to be energetic, well rested. We're an ummah that can wake up for Salat al-Fajr and Salat Qiyam al-Layl, and we're able to sleep after Isha. Like our sleep schedule, especially in the summer, is so short compared to, you know, everybody else who's needing 8 and 9 hours. But your body also tells you how it is based on how your hair is, your nails, your tongue, easy bowel movements, you're not constipated, you don't have diarrhea, balanced weight. Now, I know everybody always thinks that if you're overweight, you're unhealthy. Now, what happens is that weight is one of the indicators, and you're going to see here that there's so many other things that we should look for to determine whether you're healthy or not. Can you be overweight and healthy? Yes. And can you be normal weight and unhealthy? Yes. So weight is not the only factor that we have to use when we're determining health, whether your body is well or not. Weight has other things that it tells us. So it tells you that your body is preserving, for instance, calories. It's not allowing things to burn. And sometimes that could be because you have a mineral deficiency. If your body is not getting enough of the minerals that it needs, then it holds on to weight because it doesn't think that there's enough supply. So there's other causes for why people are overweight. It doesn't always mean that they're overeating or not eating the right food. So that's, I just want, because I know there's so much focus on the internet all about weight, all about how to lose weight and how to do this for the weight. And I just want people to shift and separate weight from health, because healthy and weight are two separate things. You know, weight is just a very small component of being healthy. And you see that there's so many other ways that we're going to be determining how our health is. Now, also the absence of ailments. So if you have inflammation, if you have pain, if you have cysts, tumors, growth, stones, any of these things, this is an indication that your body is not well, it's out of balance. And when you don't have this, if there's an absence of these, that means your body is doing well. And you also want proper function of organs. So if your bowels are moving properly, if your liver is functioning well, if your gallbladder is functioning well, this is all an indication that your body is healthy. Now, there are some prominent symptoms that we all know that we can recognize that our body is talking to us. So things like infection or sore throat or nausea or heart attack, you know this is serious. You pay attention to your body, you listen. You usually seek medical advice when you have any of these issues. But then there's other things like a change in your taste or your appetite changing or your cravings changing, or having bloating or belching or reflux. A lot of people dismiss these symptoms as, oh, that's just, you know, the way my body is, or that's just the way I am. Or they might just take, you know, Pepto-Bismol or some reflux medication just to help because they think they overate. What I want you to do is to start paying attention to these things, because this will tell you a lot about your body. And now every single person's body is different. Islamic medicine isn't a cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's very customized, it's very individualized. And remember, you are your own physician. You're the one who's going to be the champion for your health. You're the one who has to know what's going on inside of your body. Because if you go to a doctor and you just say, I have reflux, but he doesn't know all the other things that are going on in your health, in your day, in your schedule, what foods you're eating, what foods you're combining, then he's just going to treat the reflux. That's all he's going to do. But if you know that, well, I ate this, and then I did this, and then I did that, then you're going to have the whole picture of what caused the reflux. You always want to get to the root cause, because that's the way that you're going to be able to undo some of the health issues that we're developing. If we just treat, you know, if we just treat things, if you have indigestion and you just treat it with a herb or you treat it with a pill, then you're never really addressing the root cause as to why is this happening in the first place. So you want to know if your liver is not functioning well, you want to know what it needs in order for it to heal. And so the way the liver communicates is by telling you through bloating or indigestion or reflux that it's not doing well. And every single symptom in combination with other symptoms will have a different meaning. So pay attention to the subtle symptoms. Don't ignore them. How your skin is, your hair, your sweat, your fatigue or energy levels, how your body odor is, whether you have asthma or nail fungus or obesity. All of these are signs and symptoms of what's going on inside of your body. And it's really important that you pay attention. Don't ignore these. And I always recommend start writing things down, because the more you write things down, the more you're going to be able to start connecting dots. I'm going to give you just 3 examples of how your body communicates, and maybe these are things that you didn't even know is what your body's trying to say. So the first one is thirst. If you find yourself excessively thirsty after a meal, your body is trying to tell you that it's struggling to digest the food. So sometimes if we have a heavy meal, a fatty meal, and we don't have enough bile or stomach acid to actually break down the food, your body signals that by asking you for water and water and water, because water helps break things down. Another one is sugar cravings. If you find yourself craving something sweet several times a day, and not just because you're out with friends and you want to have a dessert, but you actually wake up, you're like, I need something sweet. I just had breakfast, but I need something sweet. If you find that you're craving sweet food several times a day, that means your gut flora is telling you it's imbalanced, and you probably have too much yeast, which is hungry and demanding food from you, because yeast grows with sugar, and the way it communicates that it's hungry is by making you crave sugar. Now, if you're angry or irritable, it could be that you're hungry or your blood sugar is low, which is making your body scream for food. And if you actually pay attention to toddlers, toddlers don't know how to communicate that they're hungry. Toddlers just usually get angry, and they might start screaming, they might start being irritated at everything. And I actually know that my toddler will ask for sugar. And I understand that by her asking for sugar, she wants something sweet. She's actually saying, I'm hungry. That's what her body interprets it as, and that's how she communicates it with me. So if your child is demanding sugar and sweets throughout the day, pay attention. It could be a gut flora imbalance, or it could be that they're hungry and they don't know how to tell you that yet. So secret number 2, there are some simple do-it-yourself checks that you can have, that you can do at home. And this will help you sort of understand where your body is at and what you need to do with it. The first one is tongue diagnosis. And I am going to recommend that everybody take a picture of your tongue starting today and track your tongue week by week, just to see its progress, just so that you can start paying attention to what it looks like, what's going on. The top tongue in the picture would be considered sort of like the perfect tongue. It's pink, doesn't have any swelling, no teeth marks, there's no cracks, there's no coating. If you look at the tongue at the bottom, you can actually see a little bit of teeth marks on the side. There's a coating on it. It's a little bit thick towards the back. That indicates so many things about what's going on in the digestive system. So in Greek medicine, Ayurveda, and traditional Chinese medicine, the tongue is believed to be a glimpse of the inner conditions of the organs, metabolism, and digestion. So they've actually mapped out the tongue, and I don't know how accurate this is. This is based on Chinese medicine, that they have mapped out the tongue. Whether or not it's fully accurate that, the spleen or the stomach is in that exact position, I don't know, but I do know that the tongue in general does give you an indication. Now, it's possible that through trial and error and case studies that they were able to sort of figure out that if the back of your tongue is imbalanced, that really is your gut. And if the front of your tongue is imbalanced, that really is the heart, right? So they might have had ways to figure it out. But I do highly recommend that you pay attention to your tongue. So the tongue is sanguine in nature. And if you've ever studied with me, and if you've ever studied traditional Islamic medicine, you'll know that we have 4 different body types. There's the choleric, melancholic, sanguine, and phlegmatic. Now, sanguine is considered warm and moist, and it's considered perfectly balanced. So some of our organs also have their own constitution. So the tongue and the liver and the uterus, for instance, are all supposed to be warm and moist organs. So that's, that's a little bit advanced, but if you study the course with me, you'd learn that, inshallah. Now, the tongue is supposed to be warm and moist. It should be a nice pink color, and it should be perfectly balanced. If you are anemic, it would show up on your tongue. You'd have a pale tongue. You would see coldness and deficiency. If your stomach is unable to digest food properly, you would see accumulation on the tongue. If the tongue is red in color, that means there's excessive heat in the body. And sometimes choleric body types will have a reddish tongue because their body gets, it overheats internally, and especially depending on the diet that they have as well. Now, again, this is just an introduction to tongue analysis. There's no way to cover it all, but I do want you to sort of get a glimpse of your own tongue and start paying attention. So you can see in the middle picture, the tongue is a little bit thicker. There's the edge marks on the side. The picture to the right, you can see how it's got cracks and it's a little bit red. So all of these things are indication as to what's going on internally. the healthy tongue should be glossy, wet, and pink. It should neither be too thick or too thin. There should be no discoloration, no patches, no yellow coating, no cracks or rumples or roughness. So if you see patches on your tongue, or if you see cracks, they all have different meanings, and then there's different ways that you would adjust your diet. You would, maybe take some herbal teas. There's just different things that you could do to help rebalance that. A lot of people, because I've seen a lot of tongues ever since I started teaching this, a lot of people have an accumulation of dampness in their body. They have a sluggish digestive system. So you would see the teeth marks. There's a lot of toxic buildup. You could see that the tongue is just carrying a coat, and it's not about brushing it off. It really is that this is an internal thing. It's kind of like saying your washing machine is not cleaning clothes properly and there's still residue on the clothes, or your dishwasher has left residue on a plate. You wouldn't want to just pick up the plate and use it again. You really want to make sure that your digestive system is properly cleaning and disposing of toxins. Otherwise, that'll accumulate and start to make you sick. There are 7 therapies that I teach in my course, and these are from Islamic medicine. There's the honey therapy, hijama therapy, ruqya therapy, herbal therapy, water therapy, environmental therapy, and dietary therapy. Now, any of these that you start to use are going to start to make changes. So if you wanted to adjust your tongue, let's just say your tongue is swollen, you've got the teeth marks, you've got a coating on top, you're going to want to add more bitter foods, sour foods, astringent foods that are going to stimulate your digestive system. They're going to stimulate the liver. You're going to want to reduce heavy foods and cold, damp foods like dairy, wheat, and meat. Now, when I teach any of my courses or anything with, whether I'm doing one-on-one sessions or a course, I never ask anybody to give up foods completely, because I just don't think that that's a healthy way to do anything, unless there's a specific condition that requires for a short period of time that you have to not eat this food in order for you to heal. But in general, it's all about just adjusting the diet. There's, if you're eating dairy and wheat every day and you've got that coldness and accumulation on your tongue, then what you're going to want to do is just reduce it. So instead of having it every day, maybe you're having it every 3 days instead of eating heavy foods. I know people that eat heavy foods 3 times a day. They just have to have a heavy, like paratha and eggs in the morning, and then you've got a heavy dinner, steak and potatoes, and just every meal is so heavy that the system never gets a break. So you want to pay attention to your body, pay attention to the tongue. Now, herbal therapy. Herbs help improve digestion. They remove dampness. They can help balance your gut flora. And a lot of these are safe to use and easy. Anybody can pick them up. I mean, they're available in almost all grocery stores. So things like chamomile and sage and lemon, ginger, honey are great for stimulating the digestive system and improving it, inshallah. Hijama therapy is also important. I know people who've never had hijama done in their whole entire life, and hijama does wonders. I actually got hijama done today. Hijama does wonders. It improves digestion. It reduces excessive dampness and inflammation. It detoxifies the bodies. It removes stagnation. And even part of dietary therapy, we always recommend fasting. And this was traditional. This was even back at the time of Hippocrates. He would recommend fasting to his patients because fasting really does help cleanse the body. Another way that you can listen to your body is by looking at your stool. And yes, this requires you to actually take a look and see what's come out, the shape, the color, the smell is important as well. These are things that speak to you. A healthy digestive system should be going at least once a day, usually in the morning as soon as you wake up, without the need of anything. You don't need to drink a cup of coffee in order to have to use the bathroom. It should be that your digestive system has done its cleansing work at night, and by the time you wake up and you've walked a little bit, around the room, your body should start to stimulate and say, okay, I need to evacuate. People who defecate 2 to 3 times a day, that could be based on their body type. So if they have a really hot metabolism and they eat 3 meals a day, their body might evacuate 3 times a day. It is not normal. It is not healthy to defecate once every 3 days or 4 days. If that is the case, I really do suggest that you look into some of the natural herbal ways and dietary adjustments that need to be done in order to improve your digestive system, because that's a lot of toxic accumulation in the body. So your stool gives you an inside look as to how food is being digested. Normal, healthy stool should be semi-solid, should be easy to pass. It's not hard, it's not dry. You can usually, release it in 1 or 2 or 3 pushes, and that's it. Your body has done its complete work. The color tends to be a brownish. Now, certain foods like blueberries, spinach, or beets do affect the color of the foods, but if your stool color is yellowish, then that would mean, you know, that the bile in your system is functioning differently. So you would have to adjust your diet, and you'd have to look into what's going on internally in order to balance things out. But these are indicators of what's going on inside. And the more you pay attention to it, the better everything will function, right? Because these are all important components. It's the same if you were having heart palpitations, you wouldn't want to know why you're having heart palpitations. You wouldn't want to just ignore it. You would want to be able to say, okay, what's going on, what's causing it, and how do we restore the balance? And that's important as a concept. Now, this is the Bristol stool chart. You could probably Google it and find it online. So it kind of gives you where you should be. So type 3 to 4 is what's considered the perfect, stool. Anything too dry or too loose would affect your system. And in fact, if it was entirely watery, you'd be losing a lot of electrolytes. It would affect your energy levels. You would probably also imbalance your gut flora. So it's really important that these things don't get ignored. Now, the third secret is why health specialists until today are using the same health checks to detect any issues and the science behind it with the herbal remedies, right? There's a lot of greed in the food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the multi-billion-dollar supplement industry. And if you look at how many new diets and supplements and superfoods emerge every day, we know that there's extensive research being conducted on the chemical constituents and the phytonutrients of foods, herbs, and plants, but they're trying to isolate them so that they can turn them into a drug or supplement, when we've been actually taught through Islamic medicine and Greek medicine and Ayurveda that we're supposed to adjust our diet, we're supposed to fast, we're supposed to do hijama. There's like all of these natural ways to balance. You don't need to rely on a pill in order to fix it, when the original problem is coming from the diet, from the foods that you're eating. So it would be naive to think that everything we are told about foods, diets, and supplements isn't tainted by the hunger for money and market dominance. We are the consumers, and unfortunately, our health is the commodity that's being sold to us. So I do want you to be vigilant. I know that there's so many supplements on the market, and yes, they do come from herbs. Some of them are important and beneficial, but there's no pill that's going to cure a bad diet. You really have to look at the source of where food is coming from and what you're eating and what you're combining. You can't bypass that knowledge. I think it's really important that we focus on the source. Now, Allah intends ease for you and not hardship. The way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed our body, and He's designed foods, and He's designed the herbal remedies, these are all created for us, for our use, to help us heal. Allopathic medicine, which is modern medicine, is not the only medicine that's available to us. Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, are still practiced to this day, and naturopathic medicine and functional medicine are making great strides in trying to find the root cause of disease and incorporating herbal therapies and looking at the body from a holistic perspective. But the thing is that many of these medical systems are built on an atheistic and evolutionary view of life. There's no God in medicine. There's no belief in evil spirits or devils that can harm human beings. It also doesn't take the concept of envy and hesed or prayer as part of healing. Modern medicine has no herbal medicine either in its teaching. So that's like doctors go to school, they only get 19 hours of nutrition training. They really have no training in herbs whatsoever. Yet these were the original pharmacies. I mean, pharmacy started from herbalism. That's where, I mean, they call them the Materia Medica. They have huge books on all the medicinal properties of these herbs, and 25% of the pharmaceuticals that we're using actually comes from the chemical constituents of herbs, but yet it's not taught to doctors anymore. So if the foundation of medicine is built upon flawed beliefs, how can we expect the rest of medicine not to be riddled with errors? which is why I've created the foundational masterclass of Nursunnah Rediscover Wellness. I really want you to learn how your body works. I want you to learn the relationship it has with foods, and I want you to learn how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created your body to heal naturally. I want you to know the 4 body types, and we discuss this in the course, as well as the temperaments of foods, as well as the different temperaments of our organs. In the course, this is actually the course outline. The course is divided into 4 parts. The first part is covered in the first week, so that's a 2-hour session. Then knowledge part 2 is quite long, and we cover that over 3 weeks. And there's a lot, knowing everything about yourself, your spiritual self, your digestive system, food temperaments, what is the prophetic diet, what should you be eating? All of these things are important. And we cover the stool and nail diagnosis and symptoms and remedies a lot deeper. The third part, which we cover in week 5, the truth, we talk about the truth about milk and beef and wheat and all the superfood and trendy diets, as well as what are the prophetic superfoods. And I think that's important because there's a lot of misconceptions as to what is allowed. And I know people will ask me, you know, they're on dairy-free products or they won't have milk because of all the negative publicity that milk has, but milk is actually one of the most honored foods in Islam, in prophetic medicine. So unless we understand why there's a disconnect between modern milk and prophetic medicine and the perspective on milk, then we're always going to treat milk as the bad guy, but it's not milk that's the bad guy. It's what they've done to the milk that's bad. And then we finish it off with part 4. And part 4 is actually the longest session in that week. This is week 6, but it's the longest session. So everything is divided into 2 hours, except for part 4. This is actually 5 hours worth of learning on how to prevent getting sick, you know, how to use ruqya for healing, the honey therapy, hijama therapy, dietary therapy, all of these things. I really do hope that you find it beneficial. I'm going to share with you what some of the other students have said as well. But why should you take this class? If you want to reconnect with understanding how your body works, if you want to reconnect with understanding your foods, if you want to have a deeper appreciation for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the prophetic sunnah, and if you actually want practical knowledge that can easily be implemented, then this course is for you. Now, balance is actually mentioned in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ar-Rahman, as for the sky, he raised it high and set the balance. And everything in life, the more you study this, the more you realize that everything has a balance. Your foods have balance, your relationships have balance. You know, there's a balance between eating and sleeping and resting and working. There has to be a balance in everything. And when you figure out what the balance is for everything, then you live a much easier life because you understand your body and you work with it. You're not working against it. And then when you do break these rules, you are going to get sick. So I know that I did that to myself. I pushed myself for a period of time and I was working every night until Fajr. I thought, I don't need night sleep. I could just work. I just need to get this done. And at the end of a 6-week or 2-month stretch of that, I ended up really sick. And it took me maybe 6 weeks to get my body back to where it was before. So this is important that, you know, these guidelines that we have that's been created for us as a balance, these are meant to help us. And if we know it, then we can implement it. And then when we don't implement it and we get sick, we'll know why. Now, these are 3 people that out of a group of people who had taken my course that actually gave me a reference that I wanted to share with you. One of them, Dr. Laura, is a medical doctor. She's a pediatrician and a functional medicine doctor. And she writes that, I'm a medical doctor, and I can honestly say that a person can gain much more practical knowledge, which could actually transform their health and lives from this course than what is taught in 8 years of medical school and residency. Unfortunately, medical doctors are not taught how to support the body through balanced nutrition and healthy lifestyle in order to allow the body to heal itself. This course does exactly that. I think that every Muslim should take this course in order to gain a wealth of knowledge which our ancestors possessed, but is tragically becoming lost in this day and age. And Ariza from USA says that, Alhamdulillah, I truly enjoyed and benefit from taking the Nursunnah Masterclass. It was an eye-opener. There was so much that I learned and applied, so many medicinal herbs that I didn't know about which can help me with my daily health concerns rather than relying on conventional medicine that has long-term side effects. MashaAllah, Sister Iman is also very passionately helpful when I reached out to her with my health issues. One of the best parts of the class was to learn about the prophetic diet and how to apply it in my daily life. I also enjoyed learning about the body types and how we can custom tailor our diet and treatment accordingly. Jazakallah khair. And last but not least, Dania from Canada, who's a registered nurse, says, healthcare has always been a deeply rooted interest in my life. I have not found it complete as a nurse, so I turned to a more natural approach. However, with functional medicine, there's no answer for what is good for you and what is bad for you. The masterclass taught me an easier approach to healing where one can actually learn what type of body they have and what steps they need to take, what steps need to be taken for healing. It has answered so many questions that I have had a direct positive impact on my family and my health. I honestly have never come across content that made sense to me as much as your class did. It's so important, yet most guide us and help us to learn. Oh, I think there's a typo there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and help us to learn. People have no clue. I can't thank you enough. I do also offer one-on-one health consultations. So sometimes if you're going through something and you don't want to wait the entire 6 weeks to learn how to deal with it yourself, but you need immediate help, I'm more than happy to offer a 90-minute health coaching session. And in that, what I do is I do the health assessment questionnaire with you. I teach you about where the imbalances are. I try to figure out the problem with you, and then I give you the healing steps that you need to take. So I don't prescribe anything, but I guide you in the direction that you need to go in, and then it's going to be your responsibility to implement that, inshallah. So if you need that, you can access that at propheticmedicine.com/coaching. And I'm going to open it up for question and answer, inshallah. All right, so let's go to the Q&A. Can autism be cured with prophetic medicine? Yes and no. So you would have to sort of look at, one, how old is the patient and how early on you catch it. Two, you would also have to look at it from a different perspective. So I have worked with patients who have autism. She has a 19-year-old daughter, and she was very low functioning. Now the thing is by giving her certain dietary adjustments and ruqya and zamzam water and black seed, there was a few things we were able to do that significantly improved her condition, but it doesn't completely remove autism. Now, if you catch it from a young child, you might be able to correct the imbalance a lot sooner. But there's also studies that suggest that autism is also something that's just neurologically created. It might, there's a division with doctors. They say, some say it is something you can cure, and they've improved the condition through diet and herbs. And others will say that no, it's an actual way that you're created. So it's almost like saying, well, if you're created without a limb, can you regrow a limb? No, you can't. So I think it's more case by case. Is the person high functioning, low functioning? Is the person young, that there's enough that we could rebuild certain things that are going on inside of them, that they may still have the ability to regrow certain things neurologically? So I do think it's case by case, but I do think you can improve the condition. And I hope that answers the question. How do you consume black seed? So black seed, you have to take them as actual seeds. You would take 1/4 of a teaspoon, chew it, and then swallow it. Now, it has a drying effect. Sometimes you might feel a little bit of a burn. It is a pungent drying herb. It actually is phenomenal for anything. If you have a headache, take black seed. If you have high blood pressure, you could take black seed. If you have an allergic reaction, you can take black seed. There isn't anything you can't take black seed for. And the maximum dosage in terms of seeds, you could easily take a teaspoon of seeds a day, and some say even as much as a tablespoon. I say take 1/4 of a teaspoon 3 to 4 times a day if you're fighting a condition. If you have cold, flu, COVID, UTI, mastitis, any type of infection, you could take black seed, 1/4 of a teaspoon, 3 to 4 times a day to help fight that condition. And then if you find that it's too drying, like your throat is irritating you, that it's too dry, you can take a teaspoon of honey right afterwards, because honey is a demulcent and it'll help coat the throat again. So someone is asking, at the moment, I'm completely stressed out. I feel like my head is going to explode. What can I take to calm down? There's a number of herbs that we have that help relieve the nervous system. Things like lemon balm, melisse, which is lemon verbena, fennel seeds, any of the calming nervines are going to help. But you also have to look at the source. You know, is it coming from stress from work? Is it coming from a poor diet? Is it coming from a gut flora imbalance? Because your gut flora will affect your anxiety levels and your mental health. So everything is connected. And as much as I like to give a herb to help people, I also think that it's important that you find the root cause. And so since the removal of my gallbladder 20 months ago, I suffer from acid reflux, yes, and bloating. What can I take for that, please? Sometimes I have fresh ginger water, but even that doesn't work when it's really bad. If you've had your gallbladder removed, you have to modify your diet, because what happens is the gallbladder's function is to take the bile from the liver and it concentrates it. So it spends 8 to 10 hours concentrating that bile to digest fat and protein. And if you're eating heavy foods that have fat and protein in them and you don't have a gallbladder, then you're not going to be able to digest the food. And then it's going to sit in your stomach and it's going to start to produce more stomach acid to try to break down the food. So it's a vicious cycle. If you've had your gallbladder removed, you have to adjust your diet. You have to be eating lighter foods. You wouldn't be eating steak. You wouldn't be eating as much meat. You wouldn't be eating fatty, greasy foods, fried foods. You would really have to adjust your diet. And small meals, because if you eat a large portion, then your stomach is going to struggle to digest it. Smaller meals digest a lot easier. Again, I always compare it to the washing machine. You wouldn't want to stuff your washing machine to the rim and then expect it to clean the foods. And you can't do that with your stomach either. And you can't eat late at night. So people who eat at midnight and then go to bed, it's like asking your spouse to get up and go to work at 4 o'clock and clean the house for 4 hours and then go to bed. It wouldn't be fair to your system. You wouldn't want to do that. Toenail fungi, how can one heal this? Too many different tablets to clean system from inside didn't help. Applied creams didn't help. You would have to rebalance internally as well as topically. So with toenail fungus, you could use black seed oil with oregano oil. If you have like an essential oil that you can mix, use the black seed as the carrier, you can mix a couple of drops and then just topically put it on the toenail fungus. I think Dr. Josh Axe actually has a post about that, where he talked about curing his mom's toenail fungus with oregano oil. Now I say use black seed oil, not just any carrier oil, because black seed is also going to help fight the fungus and is, fighting any infections. But rebalance internally. So if you have fungus on the outside, it must also mean that you have excessive fungus on the inside. That's where the imbalance is. Or it could be that your socks are too damp or your shoes are too damp. You have to adjust the environment where the fungus is growing in. So that's important. How about craving for savory foods? Let's just say salty and spicy. So some of it is going to be habit, so people who come from Asian continent, subcontinent, they have a tendency to love spicy food. They grow up with it. That's what they crave. And if they're also choleric body types, so if you have a really hot, fast metabolism, you tend to gravitate towards hot, spicy foods. It just matches your energy internally. That's what makes you feel good. And it's a comfort food if you grew up with it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean there's an imbalance internally, but it will create an imbalance if you're eating too much of it and you are caloric, because then your body's going to overheat. You might start getting hives. You might start getting itchiness or red eyes. It's important to pay attention to that. Again, salty foods, it could be that if you have low blood pressure or if you have excessive bowel movements, that you're losing a lot of salts, that your body craves the salt to replenish itself. So it is important to figure out what is the root cause of it and sort of readjust. So if you are eating spicy foods and it makes you go 3 times a day, then you're losing a lot of electrolytes. So your body's going to need salty foods in order to balance that out. So, but that's not a healthy formula. You want to fix that, inshallah. What is my opinion on tongue scrapers? You know, tongue scrapers could be great, but they're not going to fix the internal issues. You still have to be readjusting what's going on internally in order to fix if you have a coat. So to brush off the tongue coat, it's not going to go away. If you have thrush or fungus growing on the back of your tongue, as much as you scrape it off, it's not going to go away because it's an internal issue. You know, scraping it off, you know, is it good? Is it bad? There's different mixed opinions on it. But to get rid of that coating, you really have to work on your internal digestion. And how can we tell what body type we are? If you go to my website, propheticmedicine.com, there is a body type ebook that you can register and download. And then there's a questionnaire that I ask you to fill out. And in that questionnaire, depending on the answers, it would line up with the corresponding body type. It is possible to have a body type. Let's just say you are sanguine, but you might have a phlegmatic imbalance. So if you're sanguine by body type, but you have coldness and dampness and you know, certain imbalances in your body, they might show up as phlegmatic. So sometimes you might see that there's 2 body types that pop up, maybe 5 here and 5 there, but really it's an imbalance for one of them, and it's the base for the other one. So your bone structure is often the indicator. If you can wrap your shahada finger and your thumb around your wrist, you know, the litmus test is that if it touches, you're most likely sanguine. And if it doesn't touch, if there's a gap, you're most likely phlegmatic. And if it overlaps a little bit, you're choleric. And if it overlaps significantly, then you're melancholic. But that's just one test. It really also has the other bone structures, like, are you a slim build? Can you put on weight? You know, if someone has a boyish figure, then they're almost always melancholic, because melancholic body types can't put on weight. What does greenish stool mean for someone who hasn't had any spinach? It depends if you're taking any medications, any supplements, anything with iron in it. So again, we would have to look into what is being eaten and where that coloring is coming from. Is there herbal therapy for depression and anxiety? Yes, there are a lot of herbal supplements. There's also a lot of herbs that could be taken, but anxiety and depression also come from gut flora imbalance. So it's important that you rebalance the gut flora in order to eliminate that. So, and then there's also the ruqya therapy and the zamzam and the honey therapy. There's a lot of different things that have to be utilized. So I'm not of the belief that it's just one thing to cure. Curing a person, because we're so complicated and we have such complicated lives and complicated diets, it takes several different things. You're going to need, you might need hijama, you might also need ruqya, you might also need herbal therapy, you might also need to adjust your diet. So there might be several different things that need to be done in order for you to heal, inshallah. I have some whitish, tiny, stinky thing that comes from my throat, but tiny whitish stinky thing. I'm not sure I understand, but it could be phlegm. So phlegm we do have mucus in our entire body, and phlegm will accumulate in the back of the throat and can come out like sticky white balls. And that means that your phlegm humor is too thick, and you would have to adjust your diet and with herbs to make your phlegm humor a little bit more loose. So that would cause congestion in the sinuses and stuff. If I do the course, can my spouse listen as well? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have any issues with that. What is your view on homeopathic medicine? It depends on what you mean by homeopathic. So there's different definitions. If you mean homeopathic as you treat the same with the same, meaning if you have a fever, then you make the person hot in order to treat them, then I don't agree with homeopathic medicine. That goes against the teaching of prophetic medicine and Islamic medicine. Some people use the term homeopathic medicine as in herbal remedies like oregano oil pills or other herbal pills, then that would be okay. But the traditional meaning of homeopathic is you're treating like with like. So if you have a fever, you would warm the person up in order to get rid of the fever. And that, again, I don't believe in that. That's against Islamic medicine. Can prophetic medicine help us with mental health problems like depression, PTSD, anxiety? Yes, absolutely. And I do touch upon that a lot in the course as well, which is why we have Ruqya therapy, which is why we have to rebalance the gut flora. And there's, there has to be certain steps that are taken to get rid of that. It's not to say that it's a quick fix. I don't sell quick fixes. That's not what we do. It is important that you learn how your body works, what's causing the depression or PTSD and anxiety, and how to undo that, inshallah. But there are the herbs and there are the healing modalities that Islamic medicine and prophetic medicine gives us that's going to make huge, significant strides in that. And funny enough, I was actually at the hospital for a checkup, and the cardiologist asked me what herbal remedy I could give him because he wants to get off of the antidepressant medication. He'd been on medication for 15 years, and he said, "I'm really tired of being on medication. What can you give me so I can get off of the, anti-depressant pills?" And I said to him, I said, there's a huge protocol that has to be done. You have to rebalance the gut flora because medications kill the gut flora. And then you have to introduce the right foods, build the right gut flora, do the right ruqya, do the right Quranic readings, drink the Zamzam, have faith. It's all about, there's so many steps that are involved. My sheikh said that black seed is hot and dry, so it works effectively on moist and damp body types and climate. Black seed actually works on everybody. So you could be hot and dry and still take black seed. You see, the thing is that we categorize hot, cold, wet, dry, or antiviral, antibiotic, or we give all of these names because we need to label to understand things. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created things that are infinite. So black seed, for instance, if you have low blood pressure, black seed will help increase your blood pressure to a healthy state. If you have high blood pressure, it'll decrease your blood pressure to a healthy state. So it knows where the body is at and what it needs to do to help restore it. So there's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in the seed that communicates directly with the body. If you have high cholesterol, it reduces it. If you have high blood pressure, it reduces it. It works for the heart, it works for the uterus, it works for every single organ. It's an antihistamine if you have allergic reactions. So I don't pigeonhole black seed and say it's only for cold, damp conditions. It actually works on every condition. And it's important not to rule out black seed. So that's my 2 cents on that. How about ADHD that started from teens and continued into adulthood? Is there a cure for that? Yeah, usually. So ADHD is 2 things, right? I have ADHD, and ADHD tends to be people who are very creative. Their mind is constantly working. So it's the way it's been labeled. It's because it doesn't fit into the box that schools have or systems have that they want you to fit like this. ADHD individuals thrive and do really well in certain environments. They might make great entrepreneurs. They might make, they just have their own way that they're going to function and do well in. Hyperactivity can come from foods that they're eating, lack of nutrients that they're not getting, imbalanced gut flora. So there's a lot that's going on internally that we also have to look at. I do have children that are ADHD by technical definition, but I don't treat it that way because I see that this is how they flourish, but this is how I nourish them to make sure that they're flourishing well. So there's 2 parts to it. There's the mindset with how we label things and also how we can help remedy the situation. I'm going to take 2 more questions and then I do have to sign off. And then I will be closing the registration. So anybody who registers after I've turned off the recording will end up in not getting the 15 minutes. So I will be closing off registration shortly. What about black seed oil? Black seed oil is effective, but I say mainly for topical. So it's really good if you have pain anywhere in your body that you rub black seed oil on it. But in terms of taking it internally, the seed is composed of carbohydrates and minerals and oil. When you just squeeze out the oil out of the seed, you throw out the carbohydrates, you throw out the minerals. You don't get all of that. It's not extracted out. And I've actually seen how they make black seed. You're wasting barrels and barrels of black seed just to produce bottles of oil. So the best usage for it is really from the actual seed itself in the way it was designed. Unless you need it topically to rub like on an asthmatic cough, you can rub it on the chest. So I don't use black seed oil for everything. I'll use it for specific things, but I rely on the seed for everything else. Salam, sister. Thank you for your work. Now, I want to ask you if proper diet would help and cure autoimmune diseases, or is there? Yes, you can definitely cure autoimmune diseases with diet. There's been huge scientific research on that. But again, these are things that take a lot of time in order for us to figure out what's the root cause, how do we reverse it. But diet can cure cancer, diet can cure diabetes, diet can cure everything. I mean, there's tons of research that supports this. Spots that similar to skin tags appear on my eyelids. What does this indicate? I think that's cholesterol buildup in the eyelid. Again, there has to be adjustments internally as to how your body is processing that. I am going to end off because we've gone over. I am going to end off because otherwise it'd be lots and lots of questions to keep going through. I will try to answer some of these on my social media. So if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, I will take some of these questions, inshallah, and I will post them there. Jazakumullahu khairan for allowing me to teach you a little bit about prophetic medicine and Islamic medicine today. I'm deeply honored and I'm happy to have been here. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.